Concept 3, factoring by multiple methods. Alright, so we've learned a number of different ways to factor polynomials, but sometimes it's hard to remember which method works with which types of problems, or which methods are easiest. So we're going to look at some tips to help you figure out how to factor different problems. Alright, so these are kind of in order, but definitely there will be times where you recognize immediately what you're going to have to do with one, and so these are not necessarily step by step. Okay, generally you always want to start by looking to see if your problem has a greatest common factor that you can factor out. Alright, so if I look at 4x squared plus 10x plus 6, all of these are even, so I definitely have a term I can factor out. 16x plus 56, or 16x squared plus 56x plus 49. Those don't share any common factors. 3y squared plus 14y plus 4, they don't share any factors. So this is the only one I would factor out the greatest common factor first. Okay. You should definitely be checking both before you factor out a greatest common factor and afterwards, if you can factor out a greatest common factor, to see if you have a perfect square trinomial or the difference of two squares. This one is usually very easy to recognize because you're just going to have two terms. Perfect square trinomial, you're looking for perfect squares on both of your first and last terms. So in this case I have 16x squared and 49. Those are both perfect squares. This would be 4 and 7. So 4 times 7 times 2 should equal 56. So this will be a perfect square trinomial, and I know that I can just factor it right away with 4x plus 7 and 4x plus 7. Okay, so make sure that you're looking for those because they can save you a lot of time. If you have 4 terms, factor by grouping should be the go-to. Alright, if it's a trinomial, so you have 3 factors, 3 terms, if it has just a few factors, you can solve it with guess and check. So if I had factored this one by my greatest common factor, which would be 2, I'd have 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, and I pulled out my 2. 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, 2 is prime, 3 is prime, so I've only got 2 factors with each, so this should be a pretty easy one to guess and check. I don't have to go through the steps of breaking my 5x apart to be able to figure this one out. Alright. If there's no, if it's not simple, right, I've got a 3, but I've also got a 4, so I'm going to have a couple things to try. Guess and check might be harder here. You are going to want to break up that middle term, so it can be factored by grouping. Alright, so I'd be looking for 2 numbers that multiply to equal 12. So y times z equals 12, and y plus z equals 14. Okay, and then the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes it's going to be unfactorable. Alright, there's no numbers that when you multiply them together equal 12, and when you add them together equals 14. Okay, so this one would be unfactorable. Alright, so keep that in mind. Don't keep banging your head against the wall trying to figure out what the factors of a polynomial are when it's unfactorable. Okay, because you can definitely make up polynomials that are unfactorable, that can't be broken down into 2 different binomial factors or even a greatest common factor.